All right, today we're focusing on being able to find specific things for statistics, specifically the mode, the median, the mean, the lower quartile, upper quartile, and sample standard deviation, which for now we're just going to call standard deviation. The good news is your calculator will give you all of these numbers but the mode, and the mode is real easy to find without it, and I'm going to tell you how to do that in just a minute. The rest of these, it's just a matter of knowing how to punch it in your calculator and know where the number is. The way we're going to do it, we're going to punch it in, we're going to get a list of numbers, and you just have to know which numbers to write down. I'm going to show you these. It's pretty straightforward. We're not worried about interpretation of the data, telling me what it means or anything like that. We're just worried about today, can we plug it in the calculator and write down the correct numbers? That's all we're worried about for today. So, as we go through these, I told you mode is the one that your calculator will not find for you. So what we're going to do is I'm going to define what the mode is, and the mode is the number that appears the most often. And if you don't remember that, it would be helpful for you to have that in your notes somewhere, or at least written at the top of your page, so that you can remember this later and not have to watch the video 3-4 times. The rest of these, the median, the mean, lower quartile, etc., all of those are on your calculator list that we're going to find in just a moment here. So the median, when we find it on our calculator, is labeled as MED. The mean is labeled as an X with a line over it. It's actually going to be the very first one in your list. The lower quartile is going to be labeled as Q1. It's going to be a little lower on the list. It's going to be down by the median, which you couldn't see there, down by the median. The upper quartile is going to be labeled Q3. It's going to be down again with the median and the lower quartile. They're going to be kind of together. Means at the top. And sample standard deviation, which, as I said, we're just going to worry about standard deviation right now, is labeled on your calculator as capital S, little x. And when you have all those together, you're looking for those 5 numbers off your calculator, plus one more that's going to be easy to find. So just which one repeats the most for the mode. A couple things with the mode. If no numbers repeat, there's no mode. If no numbers repeat, there is no mode. Excuse me. Also, it's important for you guys to know that if there's more than one number that repeats the same number of times, it's okay to have more than one mode. It's not uncommon to have 2 or 3 modes sometimes. So what we're going to do here is we're going to get our calculator out and we're going to punch in this data. And all of these numbers here are going in our calculator because that's all one problem, and they're wanting us to find these things for those numbers. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take out my calculator. Alright, now that I have my calculator open, I'm going to go to Stat, which is right here. We've used it for other things. We're going to use Stat again. We're going to go to Edit. And if we have any numbers in any of the columns, we're going to clear those out. The only column we're going to be using today is L1. We just need one list of numbers on here, and all of those numbers are going to go under L1. Remember, if you need to clear it, you're going to go up over L1 there. You're going to hit the clear button and go back down, and it will clear all your numbers for you. Now, that example I had gave me a list of numbers, and it is not on the paper you did, but it's just like, the paper you have, but it's just like the ones you have. So if you pay attention to my example here, should be fairly easy and straightforward for you to go through. I would follow through to at least the stem and leaf plot if you think you have the rest of them, just to make sure you understand how those work. So on this one we had a number of data points here, and I'm not going to make you watch me type all those in. So with a little movie magic there, I've got them all typed in. We're going to take our stat button again, go over to our calculate menu, and this time we're going to be using one variable stats. So we're going to hit enter on that first selection. And this is a little different menu than what you've had before. Now, a reminder for those of you that have the older style software, what's going to happen is it's going to drop one var stats on your home screen, and that's fine. What you're going to do is hit enter after that. You don't have to worry about hitting any other buttons or anything. If you have my screen here, you just got to go down to calculate and hit enter. There's no storing or anything to worry about there. It's just get that list of numbers up. This very first number here, that X with a line over it, if you remember, is your mean. So this is going to be one of your numbers you use. So this is one of the numbers you need. The next one we're going to use is standard deviation that's on this list. So there's another number we need. All right. You don't need to write down that whole great big long ridiculous decimal. I say 3 decimal places unless you are told otherwise and your assignment has 2 decimal places. So what we're going to do on this one is going to be 50 point. We need 2 digits, so we keep these 2 and look at the third one to see if we need to round that. So that 5 tells me that I need to round that up to a 4. So 50.24 for one of those, or for that mean there. And for standard deviation, I need 2 digits, 4, 6. I look at the 3, that 3 tells me that 6 stays the same, so my standard deviation would be 9.46. Right, some of the other numbers we need, I need to press down for. So I'm going to scroll down, and I have more numbers down there. All right, I told you they were labeled as Q1. Let me highlight these here. Q1, that's my lower quartile. You're welcome to label it as Q1. It's fine. You don't have to write lower quartile. You need your median, and you need your upper quartile, which is labeled as Q3. Again, feel free to use Q3 like I wrote it instead of trying to write the whole thing out. When you go to write standard deviation, write SX, just like it's got on your calculator. The only words you need to write out are mean, median, and mode. So that's where you get your numbers from. Okay? So we're going to go back to our work. We're actually going to write these in. And I'm going to show you what it should look like when you write that in. So you're going to have mode on this one was 50. Sorry, I haven't showed you how to do that one yet, but it is 50. We're coming back to that one. So we have median on our calculator. It gave us 50 beside MED. On the mean, we had 50.24 because we rounded to 2 decimal places. Q1 was 43. Q3 was 56.5. Standard deviation, which I told you to write SX, is 9.46. There's all the ones our calculator gave us. Now, I already gave a bit of a spoiler there and told you the mode is 50. What you have to do is figure out which number repeats the most. So as I'm looking for repetition there, I've got a 50 there and a 50 there, so it appears twice. All right, I've had 42 before. There's 2 of those. Going along, there's 2 more 50s there. So a total of 4 times 50 appears, and that's more than any other number we have. So our mode, as I said a moment ago, equals 50. Now when you go to write in your answer, you need all of those. You need the median, the mean, Q1, Q3, mode, and SX. There should be a total of 6 numbers for every single problem. Your calculator gives you 5 of them. You've got to do the other one. Okay? So that's if they give you a data table. Let's look at the other things they might give you. The other 2 collections of data they might give you are a stem and leaf plot or just a list of numbers. So this one, they just gave you a list of numbers here. When you go to that table in stat edit, you're just going to type in each one individually there and go through like you did before. Stem and leaf plot's a little bit different. Stem and leaf plot, there's a key. This key is important because it tells you what each number means. So for 1 with a 2 beside it, that means 12,000. So I'm going to give you an example on this one here. That is 0, 1. So that means 0,100. Or I could just write 100, but that leaf is 0. That's what that's meaning. The next one's going to be 0,200. Next one again, 0,200. So 200's appearing multiple times. If we look here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Then my last one in that column is going to be 0,700. Then I go to my next one. That's 1,000. So that's 1,200. My next one, see, these are where these numbers are coming from. My next one is 1,600. My next one, 1,600. My next one, 1,800. 1,900. If you look beside 2, there are no leaves on this one. So that means I have no data points out of 2,000. My next one is going to be 3,000. So I've got 3,000, no hundreds, so that's 3,000, 0, 0, 0. You notice there's a 0 there telling me there's a data point. There's no numbers there at all. That means there's nothing there. Okay? So 3,600. It's those. I got 4,300. 5,400. Under that 400 there, it looks pretty terrible. Let's fix those. It's a little better. And then when I go to type those in my calculator, I'm going to use these numbers here. So going through that calculator process again, go back to my calculator. So I'm back to my calculator. I'm going to clear my old data. I'm going to go to Stat, Edit, Up, Clear, Down, gets rid of my data there. And now I've got to punch in my new data. Again, I'm not going to make you guys watch me punch all that in. So there are all my numbers typed in. We go to Stat again. We're going to go over to Calculate. Pressing that right button, going to Calculate. We need one variable stats again. Enter. Enter again till you see your list. And there's my list. Again, reminder of the ones you need. You need that first one. That's the mean. You need the fourth one down. That's standard deviation. It's not written very well, but that's standard deviation. Guys, if you're not making notes of this calculator process, I know you're going to be doing it a bunch, but you might want to have that to look back, say, Monday after you've had a weekend off to forget some of this. You might want to have that reminder. It'd be helpful. So those are two of the numbers you need. The rest of the numbers you need are further down the list, so you're actually going to press down to scroll down. And we need Q1, we need the median, and we need Q3. That's my lower quartile, my median, and my upper quartile. All right? So again, when I go to write that down on my worksheet, I need to label all of those things. So going off what I had on my calculator, I had a median of 14,000. I had a mean. If you also remember, that's the X with the line over it. You don't have to write both of those. Write the mean. You don't have to write the X part. You can just write mean. No, you can't just write the X. Sorry, not right now. Write mean. 16,375. Actually, you know what? I don't care. You can write the X with a line over it. You don't have to write both of those. Either of those will be acceptable. Because you won't see it on your EOC written that way. They'll use the word mean, but later in math you'll see that. So I'm okay if you get to where you're used to using that symbol. Fine with that. Lower quartile Q1 is 2,000. Upper quartile Q3 was 24,500. And last here I need my mode. And it doesn't really matter what order you write these in, but mode is the number that appears most often. On a stem and leaf plot, it's real easy. Find a row and find the number that repeats the most often. So obviously here, that row, I've got a lot of 2's in it, and I don't have any other row with a number repeated that many times. So this one, where it's 2,000, is going to be my mode. And again, I know that because if I look, my key tells me 1, 2 is 12,000. So that's going to be my tens of thousands. These are my thousands. So that's 2,000. Okay? We're going to do one more that's just a list of data. So when we do that, we don't have anything to interpret or change anything. The only time we have to do that is the stem and leaf plot, and I know it's a little tricky, but that's one of the ones they might give you on your EOC is they give you data like this and you've got to type it in. So I need you to get used to reading that key and being able to do things with data. Here's a list that's real nice, and all I got to do is go down the list just like this. So I'm going to go back to my calculator. I said I was going to go back to my calculator. I do need to clarify or realize I made a mistake a little earlier in the video, and this app won't allow me to fix it. When I said here as I was listing those numbers, I misspoke. That should say 12,000, and it does there. I wrote it down incorrectly. So that's 0, 10,000s, and the 2, I'm going to add 3 zeros. So what that's telling me is that the difference between these two is I need to add 3 zeros after my leaf. So take my stem and put it together with my leaf, and I need to write 3 more zeros after that. So that first one, 0, 1, and then add 3 zeros. 0, 2, and then add 3 zeros. 0, 2, and add 3 zeros. 0, 2, and add 3 zeros, and so forth with that. That key is to tell you how many digits there are that may be extra. This also works with decimals and things like that. I didn't give you any decimals on there, but your EOC might. Just getting used to how many digits and how many place values extra that might be listed there. There might not be any, and it might be as simple as this is 30 instead of 30,000. Okay, so that tells me stem and leaf equals stem and leaf with 3 extra zeros after it on this one. The keys are all different. You have to pay attention to the key. So sorry about that misspeaking earlier. Wanted to take it a second to address that before I moved on to my problem on the next one. As I said on this one, I'm going to go to my calculator now. All right, so I have my calculator. I'm going to go to Stat, which I've already done there. I'm going to go to Edit. I'm going to clear out my old data. Up, clear, down. One of my buttons didn't register there. There we go. Up, clear, down. All of my data's gone. And now I'm going to go and type in all that in. So I have my values typed in, and when they give me a list like that, it's just go straight down the list. The hardest part about typing it in your calculator is with that many numbers, it's real easy to mistype one or to miss one completely and forget to type it in. So please be very careful, and before you move on, check your values, because having one number off will mess you up. It is important that you check and be careful with that. That is what we're most getting practice on, is being careful with that. So we do that, we go to Stat, we go over to Calculate, we go to one variable stats again, so enter, and enter through. Again, if you have the old style calculator, it's just going to drop one variable stats on your home screen, and you hit enter and this will pop up. So again, we're needing 5 numbers off here plus 1 extra. So this is your mean, this is standard deviation. Those are 2 of your numbers you need. The other 3 you need off your calculator, you have to scroll down for. And they are Q1 for your lower quartile, your median, and Q3 for your upper quartile. So one more time, showing you how to write all those out, because it is important. I'm going to write out the mean, median, and mode that was we got off our mean and median, Q1, Q3, and standard deviation we got off our calculator. So those 5 values all came directly off my calculator, just knowing where to read them. Then all I got to do is go through and figure out which number appears the most. And this one's a little bit tricky if you're not careful, simply because they're not all together. See, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 2s there, but I've also got 2 up here. I've got my 3s are mostly grouped together, my 4s, my 1s, but those 2s aren't. So you just got to make sure you catch all of those, because your mode on this one is 2. All right? Those are the 3 different types of data tables you'll be given. The way your data will be presented. One is a table, one is a stem and leaf plot, and another one is just a straight list. They're all 3, just punch it in your calculator, get 5 of the numbers, see which one repeats the most to get your 6th one. That's mode. Feel free to watch this as many times as you need. Please at least attempt all of them. Even if it's wrong, we'll go over it on Monday, but have all of those done. Please work hard the whole time, and I'll see you guys then.